Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world with our safe, secure, fast, and convenient service that offers you the largest selection of payout locations in the Gambia. Supersonics Money Transfer. We are currently in 34 African countries and counting, giving you quality money remittance services that are second to none. Visit the Google Play Store or the Apple Store today to download the Supersonics Money Transfer app and enjoy excellent money transfer services only with Supersonics.
So it creates a reserve for a greater technical and professional workforce. It gives you less people to look after. And those people, you'll structure an educational and training system that will give them other routes to follow to professionalism. So that by the very end of things, you might be only suffering from 6% of people who are lost cases. But in every world, there will always be a lost case. But we just have to minimize the lost cases. So all of those are results of understanding the policy imperatives and what policies you need to put in place and how you connect.
Alliance. Again, it's been a promise from when we came into existence. I think that was a promise I made at our Congress that we'll be engaging the media on a monthly basis. But of course, last month we were not able to have a press conference because of the Ramadan, and I guess you all will excuse us for that. Welcome again. Good morning, everybody watching us. This morning we have two agenda items that we will be engaging or discussing. Very important topics, very, very pertinent issues that we'll be talking about. The first is the undesirable state of our country right now. And when I say undesirable in terms of security, we all know what is happening in this country. It is alarming. We are all talking about it in our corridors, in our cars, in our bedrooms, in our schools, in our offices. A country without security is nowhere. So I think it is really, as stakeholders, as Citizen Alliance, we are the futuristic party, we are concerned and we want to talk about it. We're not only going to criticize, but we want to highlight the issues and also suggest solutions, a way forward how we should address these issues so that you all sitting here, our parents, our friends, our relatives back home can feel safe to walk out of their houses anytime and go take care of their business and come back and feel that nothing is going to happen to them. We all are going to feel like when we leave our houses and leave our property at the house, we will come back and meet those things in our house. Of course, we've seen a lot of issues, and one of the key things here is like drug-related issues happening in this country. Of course, we've seen a lot of thievery. We've seen a lot of burglary. We've seen a lot of killings. We've seen a lot of disappearance currently. What is the cause of all that? Something is responsible. We need to highlight those things that are responsible and also prefer a way forward that we will all be able to get rid of all these issues. Second, that we're going to talk about is voter registration that is about to start. I think the date is the 29th of May, which is next week, to July 11th. Yes, we talk about elections. We cannot go to elections without people being registered. So the registration is as important or even more important than the day of elections. So we want to talk about it and also encourage the citizenry. We encourage Gambians to go out there and get themselves registered so that with that registration, with that voter's card, you will carry power to walk in December 4th, cast your vote to make a change. Without your voter's card, you will not take part in the change. You will not be part of the change that is about to happen. So we're going to talk about it to more encourage Gambians to go out and vote. Of course, Citizens Alliance takes this process, this exercise very seriously. That's the reason we had embarked on a voter registration sensitization tour since January. We've gone to all the regions to talk to the citizenry, not only Citizens Alliance members, not only Citizens Alliance sympathizers, but all Gambians who are eligible to get registered and vote in December. So on that note, I will allow our national president, Mr. Dominic Mendy, to get into details in these issues to talk to you guys. So after he's done with his statement, you all will be free to ask questions, introduce your media house, ask questions, and we'll do our best to be able to answer your questions so that the citizens, everybody watching us, will be informed, will be guided, and will feel empowered. Thank you very much, and once again, welcome. Mr. Dominic.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Ready? Madam Spokeswoman, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen here present, those watching from within the Gambia and overseas, good morning. I welcome you yet again to another CA monthly press conference, as been stated by the spokeswoman, in which CA would normally maintain its engagement with the larger society and specifically address current or potential issues of critical importance to the people of the Gambia. Our party leader, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, has traveled outside of the territory and therefore cannot be here with you, as has always been the case. However, CA is an institution and therefore believes, as elaborated in our manifesto, in an institutional, or in operating in an institutional manner, in which all people are resources to the party and nation, and each one will be available as and when needed to fulfill any party or national interest or imperative in accordance with his or her abilities. In this sense, and because CA is not a one-person institution, I shall conduct this press conference as national president with the assistance of our spokeswoman. So once again, you are most welcome. Today we shall address two very important contemporary issues, as stated already. The current worsening and worrisome national security situation, and the voter registration to begin on the 29th of May 2021, as disclosed by the IEC. After this short address, you shall traditionally ask questions, not necessarily on the two issues alone, but on anything that is of interest to you. Let me join all Gambians to pray for divine guidance in how we as a nation shall extricate ourselves from the deteriorating formation process that our children are going through, and the result of which is that many of them who would have otherwise been most useful in contributing to the development of Mother Gambia have become what we are unaccustomed to as a people. The Gambia is fast becoming a nation in which even during daytime, one would need to be vigilant about your environment. We Gambians have never known this. We have taken our peace and security for granted in the past, since it is only in the Gambia that at night you would find or meet with female tourists walking along unlit roads, such as the Haman Minor Road, or popularly known as the Senegambia Road, without worry of any threat to their lives. That someone broke into someone else's house and left with anything was big news, even in the urban areas. What then has happened that now our own children would at night break into our or their neighbors' homes, beat them up, and in some cases even murder them to do away with their properties? What has happened? What has happened? This is a question that the Gambian needs to ask, needs to reflect upon deeply and take steps to resolve. The solution to this is not linear and will require the participation of all of us in the country. Government will need to take policy making very seriously for the first time in the history of this country. Those responsible for these atrocities are our youths. And our government has a very well-articulated youth policy, on which cover page is stated, and I quote, "We cannot always create the world for our youths, but we can create our youths for the world." This was a quotation from the NCIS Naval Criminal Investigation Service TV program. That as a nation, you cannot manipulate the world. You have to exist within the context of the world. But you have one opportunity. The opportunity is creating your youth so that they fit the dynamism of the world. So youths are not an accident. They are created by us, the people of the country. The question at the moment is, what type of youths are we creating for the world in the Gambia? This presupposes that our youths are a result of the formation processes our children undergo from birth to age 15, when they graduate into the youth cohort of 15 to 35 years. This includes our educational programs and social and religious upbringing, all of which together enables the formation which seeks to establish a holistic and harmonious youth cohort that is imbued with adequate knowledge and competencies, strong professional ethics, spiritual and moral values, and a level of independence, patriotism, and commitment that gives them life options to choose development and progress in alignment with the national vision. And this is the mission statement of the National Youth Policy. That is what the Gambia is out to do for the youths. The Gambia is out to establish a holistic and harmonious youth cohort, 15 to 35. And that youth cohort will have the capacity, the knowledge, the competencies, the professional ethics, the spiritual and moral upbringing, and a level of independence, patriotism, and commitment that will give them life options. That means they will be able to choose what they want to do. They will not just do what they would be doing because they have no other option. They will have options because of this overall formation that they have gone through. Okay? Now, policies such as these, that is the youth policy, if these were initiated and evolved or derived by ourselves, Gambians, by our government, our people, from real national socio-economic concerns, they should have found their way into national development programming and budgeting. So they should have been invested in to render at every point in time the destination of the process for forming youths. That is, if they were inculcated and adapted into our budgetary framework, then most of those youths who are now plundering other people's properties and lives would not have been doing that. They would have had the moral, the professional, the knowledge, and the technical capacity to choose not to do that. But what is happening today is they are doing that because they have not chosen. They are not doing it not because they have chosen to do that, but they have no choice but to do that. So something is really wrong. However, our youth policy, again, very functionally elaborates the destination where we want to take our youth. That's its vision statement. You know, a vision statement is a destination statement. That is, come 2028, when the current youth policy would have elapsed and will be required to be reviewed, we would have had youths that are empowered and rendered capable and willing to make well-informed, sustainable, and meaningful life choices. That's what the vision is saying. So for you to have a person like that, the person must have been very well trained, very well comported, so that the person has equipment, cognitive and technical equipment, to be able to make a choice in his life, an informed choice. Of course, going to plunder people's properties and kill people are not informed choices. So have we therefore rendered the Gambian youth capable and willing to make well-informed choices and meaningful life choices? This is not supported by the evidence coming from what is happening now. It is not. So something is wrong. If because as is, this situation needs to be managed, we Gambians must manage ourselves out of it. We have no choice. We have to. And render our country once again a peace haven. However, it is worthy to note that in doing that, and having followed the issue with concern, CA thinks that there is need to rely on accurate evidence of the phenomenon and determine the what, the why, and the how to resolve this undesirable situation. In determining why this is happening, the number and variety of crimes need to be established. And if possible, the geographical and age distribution of the crimes and culprits also need to be established. A lot can be learned from this, and it can provide an effective basis of establishing why these crimes are taking place and are in the increase. There is need to understand the factors such as the social underlinings to these activities and the reasons for the seemingly ineffective policing to stop these crimes. It must be recognized that in a situation of over 40% youth unemployment and the lack of appropriate training and tools for policing in contemporary times, our police have no choice but become, like all other ordinary citizens, bystanders to the phenomenon. That is catastrophic, when the police are bystanders to crime. Not because they have chosen to be bystanders, because they cannot do anything about it, as a result of the inappropriate nature of the training and equipping. that they have received in order to be able to fight contemporary crimes. In addition to the need for formidable formation process for our children through education and the social enlightenment systems, we need to address hopelessness that has been brought about by economic stagnation and lack of meaningful employment. Security begins with hopefulness. Where there is hope, there is life. But if there is hopelessness, that you might not even complete education because you cannot afford it, that even if you complete a certain level of education, you might not be able to get a job because the economy is not growing. And so that's real hopelessness. One begins to second guess yourself in terms of who you really are and who you might be. So we need to introspect on some of the following as Gambians. One, what is happening today does not give us comfort that youth policy was driven by concern by Gambians when it was evolved, but that it was led by donors to whom this is more of a concern than our own government. So we need to introspect policy development and policy design to be evolved by Gambians, not to be supported financially and technically by donors. Then the narrative has changed. We will never be able to address the specific issues bedeviling our societies. Two, what is happening now seems to amplify the belief that our government does not understand their own policy. And if they do, then they do not have the intention to commit resources into its implementation, because the policy is not programmed financially. If it was so important for you to evolve a policy like that for the youth, the most important cohort of the labor force in the country, then it should be important to you to provide for it. Three, what is happening now seems to illustrate the fact that our police force is ill-trained to contain the sophistication of the crimes and the ferocity of the criminals. Yesterday, I watched something that was sent to me, and I was advised that you have to watch, because if you think that you have formidably provided security around your house, what they would do is they bring, what do you call it? They put some chemical elements on your wall.
Acid, yeah.
Acid on your wall. On a consistent basis, the wall loses its strength, and easily they will just come and knock it, and it will open, and they will have access to your place. That's brilliant. But that brilliance could have been directed to something more productive.
Positive.
You know? So what is happening now shows that there is need to revisit our economic growth policies. Economic growth and prosperity is security. To ensure adequate growth and distribution through such as jobs and other socially inclined public investments. And also, if not properly addressed, our children will be self-raised. If these issues are not properly addressed, our children will be self-raised in what is normally called in Wolof, Yar Sabopa. And only God can determine what happens to self-raised children. Some of them end up very well, but most of them don't. And we cannot determine that. May God in His infinite mercy help all of us. Fellow Gambians, we must now help ourselves. And this means holding government accountable for every insecurity incident that takes place. Now, there is no need to continue crying helplessly. It is government that has the responsibility to ensure that this stops now and that it does not have the potency to reemerge, since it is first and foremost a result of either their ignorance or unwillingness to take appropriate action. I shall now address the second issue of today's press conference, the voter registration. I shall address all Gambians directly. Fellow Gambians, the time has come for a decision for the next turn of our lives as a nation through the empowerment of parties and giving responsibility to people for being at the helm of governance in our nation. What this means is that these people to whom you, the people, give the responsibility must be obligated to utilize all the available natural resources at their disposal. These resources include people and skills, natural gifts such as rain, minerals, and etc., and money, just to name a few, to fashion policies and to structure mechanisms to fund and to grow an economy that will be sufficient for everybody to be comfortable. That's all we need. We don't have to have an economy where everybody is a multi-billionaire. I don't think there is any country, even Brunei is not like that, in the world that is like that. This is where security is first rendered in a nation. Security is rendered in a nation through economic prosperity, first and foremost. Of course, there is white-collar crime. Crimes that the only people who will commit them are the rich. But those are social outliers. Our system should be able to take care of those, but they will be in the minority. But the tendency now is that, in fact, the social outliers in crime are becoming the majority. How can we live in a nation like that? An economy that is sufficient to enable all to feel secured and unwilling to resort to crime and to access comfort is an economy that promises real security. This is where security is first rendered in a nation. A country that grows and its wealth fairly distributed is a secure and peaceful country. And I need us to know that. Fellow Gambians, this can only be achieved when we as a people take the process of assessing our own brothers and sisters who have volunteered for leadership and critically voting in those that we know have what it takes in cognitive adequacy and moral and social commitment to bring about economic growth and its fair distribution. That is what December 4th is for. This is what is going to happen on the 4th of December 2021, and for which reason we have been scheduled to register and qualify ourselves to vote. When you register and you have a voter's card, you've not even made the choice yet. You've not made the decisions yet. You've not assigned obligation to any group of people yet. You only qualify to make the decision, to participate in the decision-making process, meaning to make this very important judgment. Therefore, registering as a voter is the most important thing for anyone that calls himself or herself a patriotic citizen. And I guess all Gambians are patriotic citizens. Please, let us manifest our patriotism in going en masse and ensuring that once we qualify and we are Gambians and we are constitutionally qualified to vote, let's go and get registered. And let's go on the 4th of December and all the other following elections and vote. This is where development begins. Our party leader, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, have asked me to appeal, if need be, to all of you to go out and register to vote. This is an appeal from our party leader. So that come 4th December 2021, you will be able to vote. And not only vote, you'll be able to redeem our country from the apparent insecurity that we are going through, the apparent poverty that we are going through, the apparent hopelessness that is part of our being. All you need in order to register as a voter is simple. All you need to show includes a national ID card, a Gambian passport, an attestation from an alcalo or a chief, and a Gambian birth certificate. If you are a Gambian, it should be extremely simple for you to get at least one of those. So not to register because you do not have any of these is a choice, it's a personal choice. And of course, one hopes that when one is making a choice, you make a choice that is to your supreme personal interest. And a choice that is to your supreme personal interest is the choice to ensure that this country's governance is put in proper hands. And that only begins with you being able to make that choice, and that is get a voter's registration, a voter's card. It is really easy and accessible. And all that remains to be done is that we must understand that to register and to vote are obligations to us as citizens. Please let all the youths of this country, from Koina to Khartoum, register. Remember, the brunt of difficulty in any nation squares on the heads of the youth. The insecurity that is being talked about, the culprits for the insecurity, and eventually the people who will suffer as a result of the insecurity are you, the youths. And therefore, as a youth party, CA intends to make sure it brings back hope to all and sundry, especially the youth. And in so doing, we are requesting and appealing to all of you youths not to allow any reason for you not to be able to register to vote in the elections that are yet to come. The schedule has been issued by the IEC, and CA shall continue working very hard as part of our outreach programs and working also with the IEC to ensure that everybody who is qualified and eligible to register to vote across the country is registered. Everybody. Because this is the only way that we can ultimately and genuinely address the ills of this country, the ills of insecurity and hopelessness. Fellow Gambians, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Uncle Dominic. Two issues, but I think they were dealt with in depth, and you all will have lots of questions based on Uncle Dominic's submission to ask. I just want to highlight a few things that Mr. Dominic Mendy said here, which are very, very important and I think needs a lot of emphasis. Youth are not an accident, he said. Our youth are the most important cohort in our workforce. We really need to make a lot of emphasis on that. We have a very, very large youth population. We need to harness the potential in our youth to help this country develop. Without it, we won't go anywhere. And I just want to emphasize more on that by saying I had a statement from Pope Francis, who said, our youth are not the future as we normally call them, but our youth, they are our today, they are our now, they are our current. Thus, we need to put a lot of importance, attach a lot of importance and take care of our youth. Because if we don't take care of our youth, we tend to fail as a nation. And with all these issues happening in this country, I think you will all agree with me, we have failed in harnessing the potential of our youth. Thus, this is the ripple effect. Again, Dominic said, security begins with hope. There is a lot of hopelessness in this country. You talk to our youth, they will tell you they don't know what the future holds for them because there are there's no hope per se. They don't have jobs, they cannot take care of themselves, they cannot help anybody. So again, the easiest way out is to take things into their own hands. And we don't want a country to be run that way. Without much ado, I want you guys here, our media, our partners, to start asking your questions. Like Mr. Dominic said, it doesn't have to be limited to these two issues that we talked about. It can be anything, and we'll do our best to answer it. Thank you very much. So we can take the first question. Okay, you can just tell us your name and which media house you're coming from.
Oh, okay. I am Khadija Judopsi from Star TV. My question is, based on all the atrocities happening in the country currently, what are some of the steps that the Citizen Alliance are ready to put forward in order to address those issues when put into office?
Mm-hmm. No, you want me to address them? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I guess that is exactly that's the crux of my address. You probably were looking at me very closely because I'm very handsome, so you didn't hear most of what I said. Hmm? Or you like this nice hair. But let me say this. What I have just said is that one thing is evident to fail, to have failed, is the lack of embrace by government of the youth policy, a very vibrant and a very well-structured youth policy. Now, when I say lack of embrace, it means when you develop a policy, you have to implement the policy. How do you implement a policy? You now review the policy and ask yourself, what does the policy say is at stake about youths? You know, it elaborates all of that. Then it provides what must be done. So what must be done are the areas in which government must invest. And when you say government invest, it means now you will determine which area has been identified as needing something to be done, and you identify what it is that has been detailed to be done. So if the area is in agriculture, if it is in education, are you with me? If it is in sports, if it is in all of these, then you are now beginning to assign responsibility to different sectors, isn't it? Ministry of Education, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Sports. You understand what I'm trying to say? And then the detail of it would now say X, Y, Z needs to be done in education. If it is not already done, then that means education should now be restructured so that will be introduced as part of their operational structure. So it must be budgeted for now, and it must be taken to Parliament, and Parliament must approve to assign money for that to be implemented. Are you with me? If it is something that has already been done, maybe it is not being done very effectively, so it needs to be dynamized, it needs to be expanded. So that means more resources, and when we say resources, it's money, yes, but it's also people and equipment and, and more logistics and more reach and, more scope. So that needs to happen. So that is what has failed. So that is what CA will do, because that is how you run a country, because once you do that, you have actually established an infrastructure, a national infrastructure, to address the youth problem. But for as long as you do not do that and you continue just talking about it, you've not done anything. Establishing an infrastructure is identifying the infrastructure, structuring it, and financing it. Once that happens, you have people, then you now begin to monitor and evaluate. And you amend as you move on. But until that has happened, nothing. The other thing that CA will do, and I have stated it here, that the economy needs to grow. Growth in an economy is not just a number. That number, GDP growth, represents increases in investment, either public investment by the government or investment by the private sector. That is more factories, and more. And more factories and more offices means more jobs, isn't it? Is that not more jobs? And more jobs means more money. More money, because those who work there will be paid. And they will look after their families. And they will also invest in assets like properties. You understand what I'm trying to say? And those they pay those monies also receive income. You see how the multiplier effect of creating income across everybody just because of one job? You know, one of the greatest things I like seeing is when the Q group have their annual Q group HR meet. I don't know. I'm not sure that's the way they call it, but they have, you know, what do you call staff party, you know? Annual Q group staff party. And you see people in all the Q group components of businesses. Some of them managers, some of them technicians, some of them engineers. And they all come to that party. And what I do is, I am not looking at the profit that Mohamed Jah is making from all of this investment. What I'm looking at is people who come to these investments from universities, from all facets of life, with their qualifications and have jobs and are very well paid and are raising families and sending their children to universities. And, you know, do you see the contribution to the economy? That is security. So if there are no jobs, because the economy is not growing, and when you want a job, you cannot get a job, all you can do is stay home and sleep. And if you are lucky, you may ataya nga nan ko. So lucky would bes bobu ataya amul. Eventually, so ataya teglante amut, you end up saying, look, ataya bi tay fum jaram. So Dominic di romba daf ñoo jox ataya o ñu def ko leneen. Is that not insecurity? That is insecurity. So these are, and then at the same time, you will still revisit the police training infrastructure. The training, the inculcation of the values of policing, but also the equipping of policing. Because at whatever security level you are in the world, if in the most secured country, has a policing system. Because there will always be crime of some sort. But you have to be able to train your people and develop them as you go on to be able to respond to changing dynamics in crime. So that is exactly what CA is going to do, because you have to address the root cause of insecurity. I hope I'm clear. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Yusuf Taylor. Thank you very much for the opportunity for this presentation. Talk about investing. You yourself was in government, as former minister in charge of this very investment. But we have not seen ever more than 1% of the budget ever apportioned to Gambian youth. How will you do differently or better? Can you pledge us an amount or a percentage, minimum percentage that Gambian youth will be given finally if CA was to have the opportunity? That's my first question.
Can I answer that? Now you've made a statement. I am not sure whether you know that it's supposed to be a statement of fact. You say no more than 1% is invested in youths. And I take that to mean that for you, investment in youth means the apportionment of the budget to the Ministry of Youth and Sports.
Which is not only for youths alone.
I agree. But let me tell you, what we need to do as a nation is not to say that no more than 1% is invested in youth. It's to find out how much money is invested in youth. Because really as a nation, we don't know how much money is invested in youth. And let me give you an idea. Let me just take 1 or 2 ministries. If you go to Ministry of Tourism and Culture, 75% of the workforce in the tourism subsector is youth. Are you with me? Huh? 90% of the workforce in art and culture is youth. It's music, the arts, it's all youth. So you can actually reference the greater proportion of the apportionment of the budget to tourism and culture as investment in youth. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So your policy should be structured in such a way that if that is investment in youth, you have to optimize it in such a way that music becomes a big industry, that football and sports become big industries, so that we are able to supply the kinds of Ronaldo and Messi, so that every year the remittances from sports professionals outside of the Gambia will become a significant proportion of the inflows of foreign currency. So you see, now if you go to agriculture, about 50% of the investment in agriculture is directed to youth. So what our problem is, again, is policy. We have not been able to understand what it is that is constituted as investment in youth, so that we structure and manage it in such a way that we distribute the youths into these areas and support them. And once they are supported and are involved and active in these areas, naturally they will not see crime. If you understand what I'm saying. So that's it. So it's just to correct that perception.
I just want to highlight the issue why I raised that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's look more specifically. This current government, when it talks about its prior or what it has achieved for youth, points to YEP, for example. And we all know for YEP that was what, 11 million euros?
Yeah.
Invested in youth. We want to see the Gambian youth need similar investment, not only from outsiders. This is why I'm asking you to commit, to give us something tangible. Because
absolutely, I'm coming.
I agree, because when the government talks about youth, they don't highlight agriculture. We all agree, youth is cross-cutting. But we want specific tangible
No. So given that broader understanding of the investments in youth, and given the establishment of how public budgetary allocation puts itself into benefiting the youth, I would say that the investment in youth should commensurate with the proportion of the youth population to the national population. Definitely, it should not be less than 60% of development financing going into either direct or indirect youth investments. Absolutely. Because if you do that, you are actually addressing the greater part of the economy. So it creates a reserve for a greater technical and professional workforce. It gives you less people to look after. And those people, you'll structure an educational and training system that will give them other routes to follow to professionalism. So that by the very end of things, you might be only suffering from 6% of people who are lost cases. But in every world, there will always be a lost case. But we just have to minimize the lost cases. So all of those are results of understanding the policy imperatives and what policies you need to put in place and how you connect these policies with government budgeting. Government budgeting is not just the beauty of sitting down there and reading a budget. No, it's relating a budget to what government is going to do to transform your life, my life, and the lives of those people. Are you with me? So by the end of, if you use this, by the end of a given number of years, you will not be talking about so many children roaming the streets and being in crime. You might be talking about so many professional people needing jobs and needing, in fact, better jobs. Not necessarily even jobs, but better jobs, better future. Needing better housing, needing better cars, needing, these other things. You talk about things needed to increase and enhance prosperity. That is what CA is going to do. I don't know whether I'm very clear about that. That's what CA is going to do. So you first must understand your predicament. You first must understand and have the tools to address your predicament. And, in hindsight, to answer his question, I was in government. And the question is, why didn't you do that?
Yes, that's my question.
Which I did not answer, because but I did that. I did that. If you remember when I was in government, I don't know how old you were at the time, whether you understood what was happening at the time. I went into government at a time when after the change, and because given the nature of the government and the way it came about, the donors and all the partners of the Gambia backed off. And I went into government reluctantly because I saw that it was catastrophic if I were going to stay out of government, because we would have had social disorder. So I went into government and I advised that we need to re-engage with our donors. But in order for us to be able to re-engage with our donors, we have to chart our future. And that was why I advised the creation of the Vision 20, the national think tank. Because people tend to think that the national think for the first time is the one that they are talking about. No. We created the first national think tank. And it generated the long-term policy statement, the only one that the Gambia has ever had. Vision 2020. And we had started redefining the structures of government and redefining the allocation of resources in accordance with the policy objectives of Vision 2020. But of course, the government that enabled it destroyed it. So I ended there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Fatima Kamara from Gambian Talents TV. Okay, my question is Citizen Alliance ready for any coalition? If yes, tell me why, and if no, tell me why.
Can I tell you something? In politics, it is said, you never say
Never.
never. So it means yes and no. Yes, if it is appropriate, no, if it is not. But the appropriateness will depend on the time and circumstance. Answer?
Yes. My second question will be about this security in the country. We have talked about the killings and the armed robbery happening in the country. What do you think is responsible for all these crimes that are happening in the country?
Yeah, and I'm going to state that again. What is responsible? There is a breakdown. One, in law and order. There's a breakdown in law and order. The things that people never thought about doing, now they are doing. Breaking into people's homes, harming people, even killing people to take their properties away from them. So that's the cause. But again, that in itself has the root cause. Because the people doing that are not old people like me. You've not seen a man with hair as nice as mine doing that. It is only people with hair as ugly as yours. Because I know yours is very ugly and dark. Huh? No, more seriously, your hair is nicer than mine. Okay? So, who are these? These are young people. So the problem we are talking about is, what has led these young people to this? Is it their fault? No. Yes, no. Because we also come from homes. Ak no nyaka nyaka, danga wara gore. I was raised from a very poor home. But I decided that I cannot be a criminal. Because it will not take me anywhere. But how many people can do that? And I'm sure there are people who have even done far better than I have done. But you know what? That is why we have government, to help even the weak become strong. So the problem really has been that those youths have resorted to that, partly because of their fault, partly probably because even their parents don't have time anymore to look after and raise children because they are too busy looking for daily bread. Times are hard. So the economy is poor, the economy is weak. It cannot provide basic subsistence. And two, the policy framework is inappropriate and wrong. And even where it is appropriate, it is disconnected from public investment, so nothing is being done about it. And so the formation process, the year process, the Kuluro process, do you speak Maninga? The Kuluro process that we were supposed to have seen in our children, so that Sama Silining is more kendolti, it's not happening. So definitely, ite imamol sotonola, ite fadal sotonola. Kawyawil doron ne besi alo. You understand Maninga? You don't understand Maninga. So if that process, if that formation process is wrong and is not done properly because it is not invested in, you will not end up getting imams or priests or professionals. You just end up churning out criminals, unfortunately. So that's the situation.
Can I piggyback on what
Yeah.
it seems like it's most from what you are talking about, most of it seems to be coming from one side, which is the citizens. I'm not just talking about just youths. What about on the government side, security sector reform? How is the response in Gambia here? We all know, like people now are thinking it's more justice. It's gone beyond just the problem because when you call the police, they never come in this country. You have to go and fuel them. Maybe if you are a select few high up there, state security is always available for you. We know that those who we pay salaries for as taxpayers are given security. So they don't have to wait. So I'm trying to balance.
No, you're right. You're right.
She has said, certainly, I'm not denying
No,
what she has said.
absolutely.
But what about the government side and the failed security sector reform in
Yes,
this country?
that is true. Security sector reform is also policy development. Reforming security sector is actually reforming the security policy of this country. The example of policy development that we have used on a positive sense is the youth policy. But security policy reform in itself is failure. And the state of despair of the security services, which has resulted into them being rendered bystanders to crimes and criminal activities, only supplying it to the privileged, has generated mob justice, which is wrong. And really, in fact, I have forgotten to raise the issue of mob justice because Dr. Ismail Aziz insisted that I must talk about it. Because in CA, mob justice cannot be a justice system. There is an institutional legal justice system which is expended on by the taxpayer. And that system must be capacitated to provide the requisite justice when a situation like that exists. The police should be equipped and trained to respond to every of those issues. And if anybody is caught committing an act like that, nobody has a right to kill the person. Nobody has a right to maim the person. We have an obligation to hand over the person to the appropriate legal authorities. And that is CA's position. I agree with you. Because the situation you are describing is a real breakdown in law and order and a lack of investment in security. And you know, the security reform issue is a very sad situation. You know, the perception of security in the Gambia is a bit myopic. The Gambian perception of security, especially from a government point of view, is bodily security. And therefore they look at this army, the police, they are not looking at your job as a security element. You understand what I mean? Your happiness as a security element. Your education as a security element. Because if all of those are right, will you harm anybody? You won't. And so if you do not harm anybody, are people not more secured in your presence? Indeed. But you know, government tends to think that security sector reform is determining whether in fact the army should stay, and if it stays, what type of army it should be, and if in that decision it is too scared to take. That's a sad situation. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Asking me that question. The IEC has had difficulties in its preparation for the current elections. In fact, until today, we don't even know how the diaspora voting will take place.
If it will take place.
Well, it is supposed to take place. So that's the point. So we know that the atmosphere within which, or the environment within which the IEC is preparing to conduct the next elections is challenging. But there is no excuse for the IEC to fail in ensuring that it provides optimal environment and logistics for those elections to be held at the right time, and at a time when people can make informed decisions. We know that they are challenged, but there is no excuse for failure. So at this point, that's the only thing we can say about the IEC.
The final question is with regards to political setups, the way it has been over the years, especially in the past 22 years. More often, Gambians will blame the opposition for just being critics. They don't provide solutions. Of recent, we have seen a shift in product, especially with the new political parties coming. They have very good ideas there. They always see with the media. But does the CA at some point, very concerned about what is happening in the country, just picked up the phone and called the presidency to tell them, look, you ought to leave to the tax. We want to meet you and discuss with you on the way forward.
No, we have not done that, call the presidency and say, we want to meet you. But I know that at a personal level, look, I'm a senior citizen in this country. You know, I have been involved in political governance in this country. I also am still very highly involved in providing governance policy advisory services and studies and support through the financing mostly of the donor community. So, and I know almost every important governance personnel in this country. And I get involved in dialogues with all of these people, either at a policy consultative perspective or at a personal level. And really, as a consultant and as a senior member of CA, I have taken on government publicly and privately on almost all the issues that we have talked about here today. But really, to have said, yes, we want to meet the presidency, at times it is not necessarily the presidency that you meet. In fact, if you ask to meet the presidency, then the dynamics will change and be called political. So it's no more technical support, because that's the way they will perceive it. And so they begin to wonder whether they should expose the president to this smart Dr. Ismail, as you say, you know, or, you know, to another smart CA technocrat. So you end up receiving cold shoulders, and you end up not even being able to add value. But if you have seen what has happened here today and in the press conferences that we have held in the past, you will know that we are based on providing solutions. we identify the issue, we discuss the nitty-gritty of the issue. Then we profile our solutions and we allow a debate on the solutions that we profile. We do know, of course, that they are not...
The killings and the armed robbery, most of them are caused by foreigners. Most of them are caused by foreigners. Because looking at the Busumbala incident, he is not a Gambian. And also the incident that happened there at Lamin. So what are the possible solutions that the government should do in eliminating that issue of foreigners coming to the Gambia and also causing these killings and also non-law?
Let me just say that in my statement, one of the solution possibilities that we recommended was to ensure that there is evidence to the type of crimes, the intensity of the crimes, and even the geographical age distribution of the crimes. And the distribution could include the national distribution of crimes, whether they are committed by foreigners, and if they are foreigners from what country. That's very important. Because that's not a statement I can confirm, that most of them are committed by foreigners. There are some crimes that are committed by foreigners, but there are a lot of other crimes that are committed by Gambians. I live at Bijilo. My neighbors are the, how do you call them? The police, those guys. Anti-crime. And 90% of the people I see at anti-crime are not foreigners. They are Gambians. Every day you will see anti-crime, you know, a truckload of these people. They are not foreigners. They are Gambians. So yes, you are right. Foreigners, we need to have a way of managing. But you know, let's be very careful in the way in which we use the word foreigners and avoid being xenophobic. Because we are all foreigners. If you go around this room, at some point in anybody's life here, you were a foreigner, whether you went to Senegal, or you went to Guinea-Bissau, or you went to Mali or Nigeria. You are a foreigner. And when you go into those countries, you want to be treated like a human being, and treated like one of them. If you commit a crime, then they will treat you like the way they treat somebody in their country that commits a crime. So the law that we have for our people is the law we'll have for them. Now, we are not part of the formation of those people. They are who they are before they came into this country. But formation is a continuous process. We do hope that they learn from us and change. But if they decide to go into crime, we will have to use our laws to deal with them like they will deal. Crime does not discriminate between Gambian and non-Gambian. So what is important really is for us to ensure that we properly structure our security sector, we equip, train, and fund them to be able to do the right things within the acceptable human rights norms. To everybody, whether foreigner or Gambian. I hope I've addressed. Yours is not the easiest.
Yes, the reason why I asked this question is, according to my research, almost 99.9% of my sources were saying that foreigners are responsible for all these crimes that are happening. They're not saying 100% of foreigners, but
not at the first engagement, and of course it was an administrative error from the National Assembly. We were left out, and the excuse given was they didn't know where to drop our letter. And that same day, you know, it was on the media. As soon as we saw it, I reached out immediately, like, oops, okay, what happened? I think we're supposed to be there, and we're not there. Okay, it was like, oh, we'll get back to you. I checked on them again, and of course the clerk or the secretary, they call it, confessed that yes, I did not even attempt to send their letter to inform them. And we were not the only one. So at that point in time, they realized it was not only Citizens Alliance, even the APRC, you know, about 5 other parties, and of course, I think one was invited, but did not make it. So another engagement was organized. They, you know, informed us, and that was last Tuesday, I think. So apparently 7 political parties could not make it to the first engagement, and of course we went to the second engagement. And of course, you know, we've had several press conferences, and I'm happy you've always graced it. And you would remember that our position is the diaspora, you know, needs to vote. Because why should we disenfranchise such an important, you know, group of Gambians? It is their right, and I don't think anybody has the right to take away another individual's right. That is our position. We still stand by it, and I think we were the first political party to challenge the IEC. During one of our press conferences, Dr. Ismail Sise did, and said, you know, they need to start looking into the modalities of, you know, how to get the diaspora to vote, because it's important. It is their right, and it shouldn't be taken away from them. We still stand by that, and we hope, even though we all know time is not on our side, we're really running against time. But I think if the political will is there, if the support is there, if the willingness is there, they should be able to find a way out to get them to register and get them to vote.
Sorry, I'll add just a little bit on the diaspora voting. You know, for me, the diaspora will vote. Because constitutionally, they are supposed to vote. And the law, the Supreme Court has attested to that. So if the diaspora does not vote, it is like saying North Bank region will not vote. Can the IEC do that? Can the IEC all of a sudden say a particular region, or KMC, or West Coast region will not vote? I don't know if the IEC has authority to do that and say, no, for these elections, 2021, Brigama Commandant Banco, it a vote killer. Can they do that? So it's the same thing. The diasporans are perceived constitutionally like everybody else, like these regions. So they have to vote. How they will vote, that's the business of the IEC. Are you with me? So as far as I'm concerned, they'll vote. Now, I was with West Coast Radio, and I had the written text of the speech of the president. Normally, during major feasts, especially Muslim feasts, you know, normally, in fact, not just Muslim feasts, even during Christmas and New Year, the president makes a public address to the nation. Now, every speech of a president is contextualized. It's contextualized to the current imperatives at that point in time. Today, if the president is addressing all Gambians, those who support him and those that do not support him, because he is their president, all of them, on a feast day on which in certain families, there are mothers and daughters and sons that support him. There are fathers and sons and daughters that do not, same family. So he cannot speak politically. He has to speak as the father figure of the nation. Is that all right? So he has to address all this variety of people. Okay, so let's look at the speech. The speech started with a salutation, which was good. The speech started with addressing the main issues around Ramadan and how Ramadan in itself has encouraged self-reflection, you know, and being able to put oneself in the shoes of people who go without and humbling oneself and hoping that out of that will grow, more empathy, So I, as a person, was expecting that he will now mourn what is happening in the security apparatus of the country. That crime has picked up. Because part of the formation process that creates people in such an extent that they desist from crime is religious and social upbringing. Religion itself is social. So I would have thought that he would mourn the fact that crime has picked up. Crime has been diversified. Not only are we seeing different types of crimes, but we are seeing even more sophisticated and daring crimes by some foreigners and some Gambians. And he would appeal to religious leaders and opinion leaders, social leaders, to do whatever they can to support government's investment in terms of time and money in forming characters and societies that are safe, so that prosperity will be able to come to the Gambia because there is peace. That is what I expected. I didn't see that. Immediately after the salutation and giving us a little bit of sermon about the good nature of Ramadan, he went into development. Check the speech. The development progress he has made in infrastructure, in bridges, in roads, and in that. And the entire speech was that and closed with that. So tell me, what speech was that? What has the development in his success, his development success, got to do with what is happening, bedeviling us now? And how is that related to what Ramadan can add value to our peace and security now? So for me, I felt that he's lost the opportunity to enlist the imams and religious leaders and opinion leaders in joining him to bring about peace and tranquility in the country. That's, for me, that's the... You have to read the written text of the speech. If you just listen to it, you might. But if you read the written text, you can see the dichotomy between the two aspects very clearly laid out.
Okay, we might take 2 more questions before we end this press conference. I know it's really engaging and you all are enjoying the questions, and of course we enjoy answering your questions, but at some point in time we have to draw the curtain, knowing it's a Friday and all of you are busy, you're media people, you have to get back to your workstation. So you want to ask a question? No? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. You have one? Okay, I'll take you first, then you second, we'll end. Okay. Go ahead.
Coming to the voters registration, what do you have to tell the Gambian people, as most of them are really hopeless as of now?
They're very?
As most of them are really hopeless.
Hopeless, yeah.
Oh, hopeless.
Yeah.
Well.
To encourage them to go and cast their votes.
Well, it's really important. I think a lot of sensitization has been happening, not only from our end, but then from all areas, okay? And there is this, I'm sure you know about the Inter-Party Committee. They've also, been engaged in voter registration sensitization. So that has happened prior to even before the commencement, which is next Saturday, and it's going to be ongoing until the registration ends. So it is really, the onus is on everybody, even you yourself, should encourage everybody that you can talk to that is of the legal age, the need for them to get registered. Yes, a lot of hope has been lost, if not all. People think it's just going to be one of it again. We thought we could not, we did it, we thought there is change, but then that change is not, neither here nor there. But again, we shouldn't really give up completely. This is our country, it is our own. Somebody cannot come from another country and come and get registered and vote for us and change. We need to do it ourselves. Let's keep fighting. There is light at the end of the tunnel. But giving up is really not an option. It's not going to change anything. So let's really take it upon ourselves, encourage people, sensitize people that need to do it. It is really, really important. That is our power. That is our voice. If we're complaining that the narrative is not what we want, it needs to be changed, we cannot change it by only talking. We need to change it with something, a weapon, and that is the weapon that we can use to change it. So there is great importance and need for everybody to get registered to be able to make that change or be part of that change that will happen December 4th.
So my question is piggybacking on that, the speech, yeah? Because I think there might have been some variations, but in that speech, they made mention, in Barrow's speech, he makes mention of Simon. Yes. Yeah, he makes mention of Simon. But there was a Fireball Commission report, which already highlighted the issue of Simon being a melting pot. The president never spoke about the environmental degradation. He said that people should support the police. But then when you look, there's a lot of human rights abuses from those very police. We are hearing it at the TRRC. So those are some of the issues which I don't know if you can speak to some of those issues with regards to the president ignoring the root causes of problems. Madi Dobata said that it was a divisive speech. This is what he said. Because of, this is an intersection of security, environment, youths, and I know CA was involved with these trying to, you made mention the last time in some of your press conferences here with regards to the youths, which you were trying to stand up for. So I don't know if you can talk to that particular issue. There are so many issues inside the president's speech. Then finally, maybe you can end with the transitional, because it's like we're not having any transition. Will we even have transition? TRRC, we don't know. Jame Commission.
Yeah, let me say this. I think you have very effectively even answered the first question for me. But what I would advise really, and that's the problem that I find with this speech, is that the president must understand that he's a father figure. Young as he might be, he is the father of the nation. Because that's what we've made him. So we all take cue from our leader. Because he is supposed to influence us. That's what leaders do. And if you want to influence people, you don't force them, you influence them. You do it, and so they are motivated to follow you. You must be honest. You must have scope. You must be perceived to be fair, not only between people, but between issues, which you have alluded to. This is what makes you a leader. This is what makes you a Khalifa. It's not your age. So when the president is speaking to us Gambians, and not speaking to NPP, let him speak to us Gambians, and not NPP. As far as that is concerned, I think that will be a good point to lay to rest. Now, the other one was... The transition, yeah, yeah. I know, we at CA know that transitional justice is not short term. And we didn't expect that TRRC would have been complete, given when it started, by the time this government leaves power. But we are expecting the TRRC report by July. And I know that government will be very busy between July and December. But it does not mean that they will not be doing any work. The only advice that CA wants to give is that we have put so much money into these transitional programs, TRRC and the Janneh Commission, because they are important. They are going to provide closure, and as a result, stability. And and ensure that going forward, a lot of the things that have happened, whether it was corruption or genocide or murder, those things will never be repeated in the history of our nation. So we'll allocate all the energy we have to development, peace, and prosperity. So, and the way in which the Janneh Commission report was handled by government was most undesirable. We do hope that government will not repeat the same for the TRRC, because the TRRC report cannot be treated as the Janneh Commission report. The TRRC is a worldwide report which anybody can pick up. Any civil society organization can pick up and use as evidence to seek the indictment of perpetrators. So if government thinks that it can forgive, like it attempted to forgive in the Janneh Commission, it can forgive people who have committed genocide, then there is something wrong with the logic of government. So they better start thinking about what to do about the report, because that report has more dynamism than the government themselves, and they cannot stop that dynamism. Thank you.
I just want to add just a little bit. Like Uncle Dominic said, a lot of money has been put into this TRRC in saying to it that, you know, its establishment until today. But, you know, we all know when it comes to these issues, the government really does not care about money, because we've seen the draft constitution, how many millions were put into that could have been, you know, sent to a village like Kabada and put water for them, build a hospital for them, if they were not serious about it from the onset. But they chose to start that process, but then they were the very ones that just kicked it to the curb like a bad habit. So for me, they really don't care about the money that they spend, because again, it's not their money. But what they need to look at is, let them think about the victims, the people who have been suffering for years and years and years and still continue to suffer, still trying to yearn for the day that they will get justice for what has happened to them, to get closure. For the sake of these people, let them really try for once, do the right thing in trying to implement the recommendations of the TRRC. Again, liñ dee wax kundo bin rey sa maam soo gisee lu ñuul dangay daw. Def nañ ko ci Janneh Commission bi, Faraba Commission, and the list goes on. So a lot of people are really thinking, you know what, it's just going to be one of those. But Citizens Alliance is pleading, and we will support the government in any way possible to see to it that the TRRC recommendations are implemented for the sake of the people that have been suffering and are still suffering today, so that they will for once get closure and put this thing to rest. So I think we have come to the end of this session again, the 5th monthly press conference. Once again, thank you, our partners, the media, very much. We cannot do this without you. You are our partners, and you will continue to be our partners forever, because we are a party that is here to stay. We're not a party here just to contest an election, win and call it quit, or lose and call it quit. It's a party that is going to stay till posterity. I think my grandchildren, I'm not telling you my son who's 12 years, but my grandchildren will come and take over this party and also continue to move it. So it's a long, we're talking about years and years and years to come. I mean, we've talked about several issues here, highlighted several issues. You guys are the media, you know it more than we do, because these issues are brought to our attention through you guys. If not, we will miss a lot of things. So you're more au fait with all the issues we're encountering here. But then again, these are issues that we can take care of. Hopes have been lost. We think we have no way to go. We think we are stagnant, but we can really get past these issues if we come together as a country. Forget about the partisanship, because there are certain issues, it's beyond party. It's a national issue that it has to take everybody's effort, everybody needs to be interested for us to tackle these issues. How do we tackle the issues? It all boils down to leadership. The buzzword here is leadership. Okay, like Uncle Dominic said earlier on, I mean, with a poor leadership, okay, we tend to compromise the sanctity of our institution, the sanctity of our country. So leadership is key here. We need to get that right. And getting registered, come December 4th, we need to think very well. 54 years and counting, have we gotten the right leadership? Why are we where we are? So let's think right and choose right. We choose the right leadership. We need a visionary leader, a leader who has a vision, a leader who can transform this country, a leader who can liberate our people, who can liberate us. At least we wouldn't stop talking about these issues because it's a country, it's ongoing. But at least if the issues arise, let's be able to find people who can bring solutions, we solve it and move on and be faced with other issues. But if we are stagnant with the same issues over and over and over, then there is a problem. And I think that is where we are, and that is what our problem is. So I thank you very much, and we look forward to the 6th press conference next month, which I will communicate to you guys. So again, everybody get out and get yourself registered so that you can vote. With your voter's card, you have a voice. With your voter's card, you have power. And when you have a voice, you have power, you are able to decide for yourself. You're able to choose who is going to lead you. You're able to decide what kind of road you want, what kind of hospital you want, what kind of schools you want your children to go to. Because you have power, you have a voice. So let's not give that away. Let's not throw it away. Let's use it and use it wisely. Choose and choose right. And hopefully, you will choose Citizens Alliance December 4th. On that note, thank you very much. Until we come your way again, have a blessed Friday.
Thank you.
Has got you covered. With the largest payout network in the Gambia, you can now receive your monies anywhere you are, from Kartong to Koina, with less hassle. Yes! You can receive monies from your family and friends in UK, Europe, USA, Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world with our safe, secure, fast, and convenient service that offers you the largest selection of payout locations in the Gambia. Supersonics Money Transfer. We are currently in 34 African countries and counting, giving you quality money remittance services that are second to none. Visit the Google Play Store or the Apple Store today to download the Supersonics Money Transfer app and enjoy excellent money transfer services only with Supersonics.